Extermination Service of Worcester County. Fully licensed and insured to handle any job. With ProTech Pest Control, you're guaranteed a quick response with flexible appointments. Enjoy the benefits of living in a pest-free environment. Call 508-757-2409 or visit protechpestcontrol.com.
WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. You'll hear it all right here. Radio Central.
Looking to add your talent to a dynamic company? United States Traffic Network seeks a motivated account executive to join the sales team. Send your resume to ustrafficnetwork.com/career.
It was another quiet night at the office. No phone calls, no messages, nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That will get you into the studio for two-way talking conversation today. Behind the glass flying the board today, he'll get you all set up and into studio. You can also join us on our text line at 508-87. We'll try that one again. Our text line is 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. There's a screen here in the studio that appears in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. And, of course, the station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, so you can take us anywhere. That's a fantastic feature. Download it, punch in WCRN, do me a favor, hit the like button so we know you're there, and then we're easy to find. You can also tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that, no questions asked. And I do stream the show on my social media platforms, Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble Live as well, and on the station Facebook page and YouTube channel. So many, many ways to listen and watch and take a peek into the studio. So we're ready to go here for the next hour, and on the way in, yes, white smoke, black robes. The world is watching because we have a new pope. A pope has been chosen. Now, literally was hoping they announced who it was before I had to turn the microphone on. They did not. So I'm assuming at some point over this hour, we'll find out who it is. And it could be the American, for all we know. It could be the Italian. Look, what's interesting is that there were 25 new countries in this conclave that hadn't been represented before. Putting the number up to 133 cardinals, and 89 was that magic number. So we saw the smoke. It came out, I don't know, 20 after, maybe noon or something like that. And they expect somewhere between 48 minutes and an hour. So we're in the zone. We're passing it. And I'm sure a caller will let us know if I don't see it come over the wire while I'm on air at 508-871-7000. I know, Ted, you're watching to see who it is. They'll come out, they'll announce in Latin we have a pope, and then they'll give the birth-given name.
The expression is habemus papam. We have a pope.
So they will give the birth-given, what the parents, the full name, and then the name they take as pope. And that'll be it. They will probably, or they traditionally will do a blessing and all of that. So and the other thing is because the age of the cardinals matter, right? These 133 cardinals, so they were all under the age of 80. Those are who were eligible to vote. So basically, if it was Biden, he wouldn't have been able to vote in it, right? He would have been over the 80 mark. And that's interesting. And I get it. I mean, even the Catholic Church is saying, hey, after a certain age, you might not have everything going together. And this is pretty important. You're deciding, in theory, I guess, through God's hand, who will be God's voice on earth. And a pope is elected when one candidate receives 2/3 of the majority of those voting. And the number fluctuated, so of course, 2/3 majority does change. Ted?
Yeah, more than half of the conclave are European cardinals.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of it being other than a European is quite low.
Slim. But for 1,200 years, we had Italian popes too. It never changed. Then we ended up with an Argentinian. So you don't know. And if you believe some of the prophecies and so forth, this is the last pope anyway. Sees the church to its conclusion, and I think the earth too, or life as we know it, if you believe in that kind of thing.
Fake news.
So the last time a pope was elected on the very first day, it was back in 1503, over 500 years ago. And again, I think I mentioned the other day, the longest period that the church had gone without a pope electing it was 2 years and 9 months, pushing 3 years. That's a lot of power in the Calaminde, basically kind of the acting pope there, or at least the power of the papacy rests with that person, and that could be anywhere. And remember, all you have to be is an ordained priest. You don't have to be a cardinal or bishop or a certain rank. Ordained priest, you're up for pope. So, yeah, I don't know if that's ever happened, but it's the way it is. So the 133 voting members chosen from across the globe who must weigh theological and geopolitical, even institutional factors, right? I think one of the front runners, right, was what they call the Secretary of State, which is the Secretary of State for the Vatican. Vatican is a state country. I mean, it was at one time, the Pope was basically a monarch. I mean, they actually had a great deal of territory that they ruled over. And if we're going back, back in history, the Pope was unequal with the King of England, the King of France. They were all monarchs, or considered monarchs. And this without getting sidetracked into Friday the 13th, the Knights Templar, who were Christian soldiers on earth, who grew far too powerful and rich for the Pope's liking. So that's where Friday the 13th comes from, by the way, because he sent out under seal orders to be opened at a certain time, which was Friday the 13th, and to tell all these kings, of Europe to find and execute all of the Templar Knights, because they got, quite frankly, too powerful, too well liked, right? They started off guarding the roadways and pathways for merchants and so forth. And the Templar Knights were black ops. They were special forces of its day. They were the most skilled swordsmen and fighters. And the white tarmac thing, tumac with the red Knights Templar cross, and they had forts. Right? They had forts. And a matter of fact, banking comes from the Templar Knights. They grew so powerful and so rich that they had so much money, they came up with the idea of lending money to merchants to start a business or buy inventory up. And that's the beginning of the banking system, actually rests in the Templar Knights. And when the Pope ordered the execution of all the Templar Knights on Friday the 13th, many went underground. And now you're getting into the Masonics, or the Masons, Templar Knights, and the different organizations that they kind of hid under, making their way to Scotland and so forth. And now you have the history between the Masons and the Templar Knights. Many Masons are Templar Knights. Case in point. So, and then of course you got Shriners and 33 degrees of Masonry and so forth. But the point is, I don't know what the point is, because we got off on a tangent there, but the history of the church is interesting, and that's what I was saying, that at one point in its history, the Pope would have been like a king, like a monarch. And of course, it has become a country state and a country unto itself in the Vatican, and of course, the Roman Empire fell. And of course, there was a time when you might not want to be named Pope before the Roman Empire fell, because there's a good chance you would have been done away with. Because what happens, what goes on between kingdoms and monarchs? right? They try to always keep the peace by the marriage, which is why a prince or princess from this country is marrying the prince or princess from this other country to keep the peace, keep the monarchs intact, and not go to war with each other. Now, the Pope remains a major voice, right, on moral issues, even on human rights, family structure, religious freedom, particularly in the West. So these are all issues. Now, depending on who this Pope is, do they continue in Francis's kind of path and kind of liberal, or do they become more conservative? What is the wisdom of the cardinals going to tell us today? Because this Pope will have major significance. Now, the other thing is, so the Catholic Church, right? Out of all the Christians on the planet, the Catholic Church represents half the Christians on the planet. And as we discussed, I think it was yesterday or the day before, largest religion, even going a little further, a little more than Muslims, which is another billion plus people on the planet. So there's significance, but there's been a move among younger people. We've talked about this, I think, before, that younger people are moving towards religion, not always necessarily Christianity, but religion. And we're seeing it on campuses, and we're seeing it in the voting and at events. So this is, yeah, I get a little echo, okay. So nations with growing or persecuted Christian populations, like parts of Africa. And Africa is one area where Christianity, in particular, Roman Catholics, are increasing in numbers. And of course, you've got, a little persecution in the Middle East, in China, of course. So we'll be watching closely to see what direction the church takes, because Christians are still very much persecuted on the planet. And will the new Pope be progressive or a traditionalist? Right? Pope Francis was seen as a reformer. Some say the church needs to return to more orthodox and moral clarity. A lot do, I think, actually. In the global role of the papacy in modern age, they have to make this up as they go, guys. Will the next Pope stand against moral relativism, or will it speak out on gender ideology? Will it defend traditional families, or cave to globalists and secular pressure? Or back to that tradition and stand its ground and let those that wish to find that religion come to it? A quick vote often signals a pre-conclave consensus, by the way. So this fairly quick 4 votes type of thing, and maybe 5, we'll find out when they come out. Could this indicate backroom alliances or coordinated strategy from a specific block of the Cardinals? But we have to take our first break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. What say you? I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on the Catholic Church, the new Pope, and where we're going. 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Give us a ring. We'll be back on the other side of the break. That would be in 2 and 10.
Hi, folks. This is Mike Stacey, head professional at Norton Country Club, welcoming you to the start of the 2025 golf season. Norton Country Club is a championship 18-hole golf course located just minutes off of 485. The course came through the winter grid, and we're open for daily fee, as well as having membership opportunities and outings available. Our clubhouse is a great venue for your wedding or group gathering needs. If you're interested, call 508-285-2400, extension 1 for events, or 103 for golf, as well as nortoncountryclub.com. Hope to see you out there.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
When you find yourself in a corner, you need someone who's got your back. Describe.ai is a natural language search engine that provides access to legal research when you need it the most. Powered by AI to help humans search more than 3 million judicial summaries in both English and Spanish. This app is completely free because access to justice is this company's why. Visit describe.ai to find the case law that has your back. That's DESCRYBE.ai.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Second segment here, and you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. What say you? We're still watching, right? We're monitoring. I know Ted's got it on. We're seeing what the curtains are open.
Yeah, and all the Cardinals are out on the balcony, and they're waiting for the announcement.
So what happens is all the Cardinals who did not become. So I guess if you're quick enough, you can count through the 132 popes that are out there on the balcony, and by deduction, you can figure out who's getting dressed accordingly, right? Because they had different sizes of the hat and the robes, and they in other words, the Pope's uniform, for lack of a better way of putting it. And I'm sure there's a term for that. So they had all the different sizes because they don't know who's going to be Pope. So they'll have everything standing by. But it's happening now. We're going to find out who the Pope is shortly. I mean, and does it matter to you? Are you a practicing Roman Catholic? Are you a Christian? Who the Pope, you think it actually plays a role in your life every day? What the Pope says, does it matter to you? Pope Francis lectured us about border and in wanting to have a secure border from behind a 40-foot wall. And the entire Swiss Guard, which would be pretty much equivalent to the Secret Service. I mean, Francis came from Argentina. I mean, once he became Pope, it's not like he never went back. I mean, you become Pope, you don't do the normal stuff. You got it? Are they?
Yeah. Cardinal Robert Prevost is announced as the new Pope.
And where's he from?
Still waiting.
All right. Well, that's too bad because, Robert. All right. See, the prophecy says the final Pope would, if the prophecy was true, the final Pope would also be Peter after the original. But see, no one, or was it Robert? No one would take Peter out of respect of St. Peter, the first Pope, where this is where I shall build my church. And nobody's ever taken that name because once he took it, that was it. But Robert is actually the name on the prophecy.
Remember, that's his birth name, his family name.
This guy, yeah.
This is not the name.
Exactly. So his name's Robert, and now they'll announce by which name will he be Pope.
Correct.
So when we get that, we'll get that. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently. We have a new Pope, Mark. What say you?
Well, according to Fox News, the new Pope is an American cardinal. How about
that? Here it is. Pope Leo, looks like the 14th.
Pope Leo the 14th, and he's the American cardinal?
Yeah, no. He was nominated from an American cardinal group to become the Pope. So the guy who's the Pope now is an American cardinal or was an American cardinal. That's big news if you're an American.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an American cardinal. His last name was Prevost. He is now Pope Leo the 14th.
So now we have Pope Leo.
An American.
And an American. Was he just
You
an
know-
American
you know-
cardinal, or was he actually born and raised in
Cardinal,
America?
I told you.
Yeah, I
He's a
know.
cardinal.
I'm cross talking to Ted. Hold on, Mark.
The American cardinal was and would have to be an American.
All right. So it's an American, but all right. Well, we'll get more information. Does that make you happy, Mark? Oh, Mark's gone. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Pope Leo the 14th, the Catholic Church, now has a new leader, a voice of God on earth, and it's supposed to be infallible in all questions of morality. So what say you?
You know, I never thought I would professionally use my ability to read Roman numerals.
That's true. We don't come across that a lot. Does this affect you? Think about it. Think about the last pope or two, or whatever popes you've had in your life during your lifetime. How did that even matter in your life? And maybe it did, and you didn't stop to examine it. But of course, when the pope decides which direction the church is going in, or whether certain things are going to be accepted or not accepted, it actually ripples through on all kinds of levels. And now they're contending with still religious persecution in certain countries, especially China, some of the Middle East and so forth. And you have it growing, right? Younger generation is actually finding religion. And this is something that we've been seeing going on the campuses even. Ted?
Joe, don't forget that during the Biden administration, Catholics were targeted.
Yes, they were. They were targeted, especially those who peacefully, and I mean real peacefully, not the peacefully that CNN tries to tell you is mostly peaceful protests, but for just praying. The one person arrested for praying a block down the street from an abortion center. Then you had the person who was actually taken into custody while praying in their home, but people could have saw them through the window. I mean, wow. Okay. And that's modern times.
I don't think that's modern. I think that's
no, it's modern times. And this medieval stuff is happening in modern times.
That's the word I was going to use, medieval.
You know, and this is crazy. I mean, we're in a country that a big portion of our birth had to do with freedom of religion and the ability to not be forced to practice a particular religion or have no religion at all. You don't have to have a religion. So along this line, I want to move a little bit to this pro-Hamas protesters locked in and suddenly won out here, right? So yesterday, radical student protesters at Columbia University. I know you're surprised. Relax. I know that came out of left field. That you never would have guessed there's a problem at Columbia. Once again, grabbed national headlines because they were illegally occupying multiple buildings, including the historic Butler Library. Ted, you looked excited. Something come across the way? He's out on the.
And everybody is cheering, and he's about to give the blessing.
There you go. You're going to get a tingle if you're a Roman Catholic any moment now. You're
I'm
feel
already
the
there.
Force. The force is with us. Yeah. But back to Columbia. We'll go back to the new Pope Leo in a moment. But protesters renamed it the Bezel El Ara Popular University. Pretty arrogant to think you can do that. So think about that. Columbia University, they take control of the Butler Library and they rename it. That's just for them. It doesn't actually matter. Now, after Palestinian activists with ties to violent actions against Israel, again, they're not getting this. You have all the rights in the world to have different opinions, right to protest, have signage, and peacefully. You do not have the right, because you've crossed the line, when you rip people's banners or flags out of their hand, or rip them off the wall or the tree, or when you throw items at them, or even when you get in their face and restrict their movement. We're not allowed to do that. You don't have a special license under the guise of protesting. Ted?
Oh no, I was just I'm watching this as it unfolds.
Yeah.
And it really is an incredible, like a miracle that we have an American cardinal as Pope.
That's a really significant thing. I mean, I thought the odds of the American cardinal become a pope was just not going to happen.
That it was better.
Maybe
than 50
that
to 1.
brings the end of the church. They put an American in. Yeah, well, that's it. The Catholic Church is done. I can regret that.
Come on, I'm trying to work here.
But we'll see how Pope Leo the 14th does. So at least his name doesn't fit in. Well, actually, the Robert does. That's the problem. All right, so that's unfolding, folks. We'll see what happens but going back to Colombia here, because I got to tell you, I'm getting so sick of this stuff that's being tolerated, and they are cracking down a little more. And of course, you've got the Trump administration, but more importantly, the cabinets and the administration and like Secretary of Education, and they're saying, hey, we got to look at this including the IRS, because for your tax exempt status, you have to meet certain criteria. These tax or nonprofit organizations doesn't mean they're broke, by the way. It just means their tax structure is different. There are IRS rules about how much cash can be on hand at a nonprofit. It's nothing to do with, you got to, basically be on a shoestring. No, look at Harvard, $52 billion endowment. And if you don't meet the criteria of a tax exempt entity, that can be revoked. The president can't do it, but the IRS can review it and say, you don't meet this any longer. And under Lois Lerner in the Barack Obama administration, guess who lost a lot of 503(c) status? A lot of conservative nonprofits. And they had us, including the think tank I'm a senior fellow at, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars defending against the IRS because they tried to revoke that status. We were victorious in the end, of course, but it cost nearly $250,000 in legal fees and to do it. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to the phones. Kevin's waiting patiently. Nope. What are we doing? Oh, time-wise, yeah. Kevin, can you hold on through the break? Because you'd come on and I'd basically have to wrap up the thing. So if you can hold on, I was so excited about the Pope. I wasn't looking at the clock. So hold on, Kevin. We'll come back on the other side. And I do want to finish talking a little bit about this support for Hamas-aligned ideology under the thin veil of liberation rhetoric that's happening at Columbia, the Baja al-Jahah Popular University, as they would like to call it. But we're going to take our mid-show break here in the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. Hey, don't forget, you can also text the show in real time at 617-297-8388. Stick with us, folks. On the other side, we'll talk to Kevin. Be back in 2 and 10.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Smear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. I hope you enjoyed the morning sunshine because the afternoon's going to bring in some hit or miss downpours and showers again. Not everybody gets wet today, but where we get those showers, I'm expecting some minor slowdowns for the evening commute. Tomorrow's going to be wet from start to finish. The morning hours, it looks fairly light and patchy, and then it picks up again with some heavy downpours Friday afternoon and Friday night. I'm meteorologist Sherry Smear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830. WCRN.
Having trouble with your cell phone? You need to visit Wireless World at 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. They fix any device, including cell phones, tablets, and computers, as well as game systems. Before you buy or replace it, bring it to Wireless World at 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. Need or want a new phone? You won't believe the prices at Wireless World, 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. Before you buy new or replace your current phone, check out Wireless World, 757 Grafton Street. That's Route 122 in Worcester.
ZT's Italia Ristorante is where to make Mother's Day a lasting memory. Show your mother that you understand. You finally understand. A mother's love is just like a fine meal prepared by an authentic Italian trattoria. ZT's menu will offer your mother a selection of ethereal Epicurean delights. Come eat at ZT's restaurant on Route 9 East in Westboro. Your mother will love it. Make it Mother's Day at ZT's Italian Ristorante, Route 9 East in Westboro.
All right. We get a little bit of the...
As Bishop of Rome, of course, special greeting. Dobbiamo cercare insieme come essere una chiesa missionaria. Look at how we can together be a missionary church. Che costruisce I ponti, a church that builds bridges. Sempre aperta a ricevere come questa.
So that is the first American Pope taking
It's
the
got
name.
an amazing accent.
And
Latin is tough.
Latin is tough. We don't use it enough anymore, guys. Pope Leo the 14th, first American Pope, or American Cardinal, becoming the Pope. So that is huge. And we will see how this works out over the next few days. 508-871-7000. I guess Kevin dropped off. Kevin, feel free to call back, 508-871-7000. So we'll let the news unfold as the Pope, but we'll get back to what we're talking about with the show here in the situation at Columbia. And it seems like it's, look, whenever the weather gets better, right? The summer comes in, spring's coming, summer's coming, this stuff flares up on the campuses. And they just refuse to do what they should do. But now the Trump administration in the Department of Education is saying, enough. Why are we giving you money? And I'd like that too. I get research and all that, but research grants should be based on how the money is spent, effectiveness, and if they are allowing this kind of bigotry and this kind of hate to exist on their campuses, maybe that's not where American taxpayer money should be going. And we are seeing colleges, mostly in the South, it works out, that don't allow this kind of stuff. Their enrollments are going up. Because you also have parents who are, in most cases, footing the bill, and they're not going to, especially if they're Jewish, they're not sending their Jewish children to a Columbia or a Harvard or MIT where it seems like they're second-class citizens, and they're not a priority to be protected as they are seeming to let pro-Palestinian and anti-Jewish students and organizations, and that's the other part of this, is a lot of these pro-Palestinian groups here or protesters aren't even students at these school universities and schools, and that should not be permitted at all. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Ken, thanks for waiting. We have a new American Pope, Ken. Pope Leo. Pope Leo the 14th. Pope Louis would be cool too. What's up, Ken?
Yeah, I just did a little bit of research in a short amount of time.
Yeah, thank you. I figured you would. Tell us what's the background on this dude.
He's a joint citizen of the United States and Peru.
Peru, okay.
Spent at least 15 years there, from what I could gather. And is originally from Chicago.
Wow, South Side?
Oh, I didn't get into that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear the city Chicago mentioned in the context of the 21st century,
yeah,
like what I'm hearing.
Interesting.
But,
Wow.
I mean, let's be serious. In the historical perspective, the previous pope changed things dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And most devout Christians would not say in a good way.
Now, did you, in your research before calling, and thank you for doing that, is he considered progressive, conservative, traditionalist?
All I have is Wikipedia. That's not reliable.
Yeah.
Wikipedia will give you actual facts. Well, when you're talking politics, oh, no, that's not the place to go.
No, not at all. We got to wait till he starts to actually make speeches and change policy or decree something to see where it's going to go. But I would think that the Cardinals, and many of them out of that 133, I'm assuming there's a percentage of them who didn't know him going in, right? Never met him. That's common. So they would rely on fellow Cardinals to be, hey, you know the guy? Have you met the guy? Who we kind of, and given it's relatively quick here, there must have been a consensus, wouldn't you think, going in to conclave?
Well, they're talking 4 or 5 ballots, and taking inside of 2 days is unusual. I mean, all that really matters is we start to hear, what things he believes in and is supporting.
That's what I'm saying. Time's going to tell.
That the last 2 popes were in their 70s, in fact, mid to late 70s, when appointed. This man's 69. He'll be 70 later in the year. And so the chances are he'll be around for at least another 10, 15 years. So does he have a mission of continuing the previous pope, or the history that was prior to the previous pope? Because the previous pope really didn't follow the doctrine as has been acclaimed for 2,000 years.
Which is why I think a lot of Catholics were asking to go back to traditionalists and get back to the Catholic Church. Ted, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I don't think the question is, will he follow prior dictates of other popes? I think the question is, will he defend the faith and possibly return to a more traditional and I don't know if the right word is here for this, but
Catholic?
Defending the faith and walking in the light rather than trying to bring others in from the dark.
Well, that's the school of thought of many Catholics, is just be the Roman Catholic Church and they will find you. They come to you. You're not supposed to change and try to be, the Pope isn't a marketer. He's not supposed to change the messaging. He's supposed to uphold and defend the faith as part of the oath is taken. So time will tell on this. Are you happy about you're Roman Catholic, Ken, are you not?
No, I am not.
Okay.
My wife is, though.
She is. Okay. Do you ever go to Roman Catholic Church?
Periodically.
All right.
Not on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'm converted.
Right.
I had a mixed marriage.
Mixed marriage.
Like that, and they still do.
So,
oh my God.
There you go. So we'll see. I mean, how much influence and role do you think the Pope has on the world? I mean, does it change your life at all? Maybe indirectly in the slightest way it can, but I mean, do you even think of the Pope when you get up and you go to work and you take your spouse out for dinner? I mean, how many of us think about the Pope? I mean, I grew up where I had aunts and uncles where there was always a picture of the Pope in the house, because Irish and Italians are pretty big Catholics, and it was common to see that. But I don't think that's a
right next to the picture of JFK.
JFK, it was the Pope and JFK, yeah, or Jesus Christ. Sometimes combination. We even had Mary on the half shell out in the rock garden. So yeah. But JFK's picture was bigger than all of them, by the way, in my mother's house. So I don't know, Ken. Do you think it matters to us much? Will it be much more significant because he's coming from America?
Well, I'll just give a little example with those who are describing what's happening internationally under the previous Pope. It made a massive difference to those in China who were Catholic.
Yeah.
Because basically, going back to Pope Paul II, who I greatly admire as one of the greatest leaders in my lifetime, the Catholic Church made a very outward attempt to convert many in China. And then this Pope came along and basically aligned with the CCP.
Yeah.
So if you happen to be in China and you're a devout Catholic, things are not going well like they did 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And let's see if this maybe a little bit of the Americanism or the, will rub off on this Pope as far as sticking up for that and standing for freedom.
Will he be American in tradition, or will he be modern day Chicago? Big difference.
Well, I'm assuming he's been out of Chicago for a little while. I mean, I don't think he's been the cardinal. I mean, his roots he may have been born in Chicago, but he would have been all over the place, including posted at the Vatican for some point. So, I mean, how much Chicago is left? I know you can take the boy out of Chicago. You're not going to take the Chicago out of the boy. I get that. But I don't think I would be surprised. Let's put it this way. I would be surprised if he's been actively in Chicago in the last 15 years or so. I doubt it. And even when they are, they're still, let's face it, they're still living in kind of a bubble in the sense that, I mean, maybe a parish priest kind of is connected to the street, but cardinal bishops, they're surrounded by, they wouldn't call them servants, but they basically, they're surrounded by what we would call executive assistants, and they would have, they don't go to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? So they have drivers, they have security, they have aides, administrative aides, they've got housekeepers. So they're living in a very different life than, say, a parish priest would.
Well, like anybody, it depends on the cardinal.
That's true too. Well, I know nothing about this guy, so I'm sure we're gonna go, end up finding everything out about him. We're gonna hear the stories about whether he still hits the street or whether he still goes to see his family. Does he still go out to his favorite restaurant? What is he? What kind of life does he lead? And what are his thoughts? We're gonna find this all out. I honestly surprised. I knew that there was an American cardinal up for running, and in my head I discounted it as they're never gonna elevate an American cardinal, but I was wrong.
Just a couple of quick facts. He's an Augustinian. He moved to Peru in 1985
with the church.
Yeah, interesting. Also, a little fact. He after seminary. He's got a degree in mathematics, so he shares something with me.
Wow. All right, Ken, we're against the clock. You have about 20 seconds for final thought.
I can't say I do, but the Madeline Dean story yesterday, Cash Patel, we're going to need to talk about that one.
Yes. I practiced the Constitution. Try it sometime. Man, that was good. That was a good. Thanks for the call, Ken. Always appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to take our third and final break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 10.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 508-500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing. Fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, The Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing make sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
Lower temperatures often bring that little scraping and clawing sound in your ceilings and walls. You know the one. Time to call ProTech Pest Control, the pest extermination service of Worcester County. Fully licensed and insured to handle any job. With ProTech Pest Control, you're guaranteed a quick response with flexible appointments. Enjoy the benefits of living in a pest-free environment. Call 508-757-2409 or visit protechpestcontrol.com.
All right, folks, welcome back for the fourth and final segment here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Watching some of the coverage there. It is packed in front of the Vatican there. They've got the guards, the Swiss guards doing their ceremony. Pope Leo XIV giving the blessing, and we'll see how this unfolds. I wonder what the feeling is like there. It must be just energy and very electric, but that should be something on the bucket list. Of course, now I might not be alive when they have the next pope. This guy's only 69. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. I want to finish with this Columbia thing because this has gone on so many times. It's so ridiculous. And what these protesters are being, and again, that's very lightly use of the term, are getting away with is in fact criminal when you start to do the things that are being done. These protesters barred access to the library. That's not protesting. That's not within the scope of peaceful protesting at all, folks. Preventing other students from studying and this is final exams time. Now the police did respond, but chose a clever, lawful approach. They locked the protesters inside. Which, by the way, also starts the borderline on detention, unlawful detention. But
in
if
this
they
country,
are under
it's
arrest,
called kidnapping.
Yeah. So, but if they are being detained, then they can do it. And they had probable cause to detain them. Inside, the same activists who had declared they were taking back the space began panicking. See? Chanting, "Let us out," and trying to break free. So they take over the library, so the cops lock them in, and they're like, "Ruh-roh, okay, that wasn't counting on that one. Hey, let us out. You don't like being incarcerated. Well, maybe we should be prosecuting these people for the damage they do and the assaults they've committed and their unlawful detention." Remember the janitors that they locked and stopped from leaving? They absolutely, I think they should have done some jail time. You have no right to do that to another person. I don't care how right you think you are or how moral you think, and you have no moral superiority here when your chant is from the river to the sea in Antifa. No, you don't. So videos from the scene started to go viral, right? Showing just how quickly the occupiers went from revolutionaries to panic rule breaking, facing some real world consequences. Now, here's the thing. If they have been facing real world consequences since 2020, we wouldn't have the problem we have today. If these protesters, air quotes for that, folks, who broke windows, I mean, these are the same thing we heard about the January 6ers, right? They broke the windows and they walked in without permission. But when it comes to foreign students doing it to American universities, somehow it's in the name of Allah, actually, but it's in the name of protest. So if they had faced real world consequences for vandalism and assault, and sometimes assault and battery, for kidnapping or unlawful detention, maybe this would have gotten under control a while ago. So you have the Columbia students, especially those trying to study, now victimized by extreme, allegedly, peers. But if they're not students, I don't consider them peers. University officials under pressure to balance free speech with campus safety. That should not be as hard as they're making it out to be. Campus safety has to be paramount, right? Parents are paying these, or maybe the kids are, I'm not going to assume, but they're paying heavy tuition to go there for a specific thing. And their safety should be part of the institution. But here's the problem with the free speech term. They keep acting as though free speech also means action. Now, yes, it does. The court has ruled things like flying a certain banner is part of free speech. Wearing a Trump 28 hat is free speech. Or Harris a Biden shirt is free speech. Of course it is. But criminal action is not protected by free speech. And then, of course, you got the NYPD and local law enforcement. You got campus police, right? These universities like Harvard. Matter of fact, Harvard's police department is very well funded, very well equipped. They got some of the best investigation units and labs, by the way. Yeah, they do. They've got a lot of money. Now, they're showing some teeth in their tactics, finally, a little bit here, right? Because you had the situation on the West Coast the other day, and the cops, I mean, these protesters harassed this older Jewish couple and was following them around and chasing them down when they walked out of a function, and the police escorted them to their car, but they didn't arrest these people. And of course, we have the donors and the parents and the taxpayers are concerned with the radicalization of these campuses. Some might say elite campuses. And then you got the broader public, right? Watching institutions bend to extreme activism in real time and over and over and over again. So what are the controversies? Again, you got the free speech versus criminal activity. Criminal activity is not covered by free speech. You forfeit a status of peaceful protester when you commit a crime. It's that simple. Why? And I don't blame it all on the police. Police have taken instruction from their commanders and then from the dean of the school, or the president of the school, maybe I should say. Just like we saw Marie Bowser, right, in D.C., tell cops to stand down. Remember, the police were told to evacuate their precinct and allow it to be burned down. So that didn't sit well with the rank and file police officers. So when does protest cross the line into unlawful occupation and intimidation? That's also part of all this. Hamas support in academia. Well, why are terrorists, sympathizers being protected and even elevated in American universities? How did that happen? Where did that come from? And now, because we have a new sheriff in town, meaning the Trump administration, you got the DOJ and FBI and Homeland Security watching these a little more closely, because if some of these out of control, law-breaking protesters happen to be here on student visas, those visas can be revoked, and they will be revoked, I'm confident, based on everything from Kash Patel to Pam Bondi to Marco Rubio saying, we will revoke those. Because you certainly, when you applied for your student visa, you didn't say, oh yeah, and by the way, I'm going to commit a few crimes. Well, I call for the destruction and overthrow of the United States government. Oh, and be very anti-Semitic. No, you probably wouldn't have gotten that student visa. So if you change the terms and understanding that you come into the country under a visa, student travel, whatever it is, it can be revoked, and that's all within the power of the Secretary of State's office. And here we go again, because you got members of Congress who seem to want to change the level of power and authority and the scope of their abilities based on who holds the office, not the office. Right? We see this, that they want to start limiting the office of the president because Trump happens to be president. Well, they're talking about things that fall under the State Department that they shouldn't be able to do. That this particular Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, shouldn't be able to actually do everything within the scope of the employment or the scope of that office because it's him. It doesn't work that way, folks. So let's be clear. Hamas is officially designated as a terrorist organization by the U.S. State Department, the EU, and others. It's not just our State Department. Islamic victimhood manipulation, as pointed out by many critics, Islam doesn't spread by military force in the West. It spreads by exploiting social justice movements. You may not like it, but they're not stupid. A full front assault military action isn't going to get them anywhere. But exploiting the universities and the students, the social justice movements, which no one's ever been able to give me a really understandable, concise definition of social justice. Infiltrating academic institutions and feigning victimhood to suppress dissent. That's the MO there, right? So this is just a constant erosion of trust in elite educational institutions. Do you really look at Harvard and Columbia and MIT the same way you did 5 or 10 years ago? No. Pete Hegseth, I think he long before he became Secretary of Defense, if I remember correctly, he took his Harvard degree and sent it back on Fox Morning Show or something to make a point. And we've had other, Aikman, right? The billionaire hedge fund guy is not thrilled with his alma mater and what's going on either. So it has eroded the you go into a corporation in the next few years as a Harvard graduate, I don't think it's going to carry this, because they're going to think, those hiring managers and CEOs are going to think, well, wait a minute, are you one of those students that, because we don't need that crap at the business. We don't need that in our office. That's not something that we need. So they're going to ask for that. So are you trying to point?
I'm still watching this Pope thing. And, you said, how is it going to affect our lives? Well, there's a rally going on in the stock market right now since the announcement.
Oh, okay. That actually makes sense. Yeah. All right. I got it. Anyway, the point is on this, because we're running against the clock here. You know what's incredible? These kids storm into a building like they're in Gaza, take it over, block the doors, rename it like it's the West Bank, and then the second they face consequences, hey, they panic. Let us out. Let me get this straight. You call it an occupation until you're the one being occupied. That'll wrap up Thursday's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Not back till Friday. Join the Carr Brothers tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Folks, Joe out. Have a great weekend.